Hey guys, tonight we tumble into the dusty chaos of ancient Greece. Not the postcard version with olive trees and white rooftops, but the truly unhinged mythological era where everyone's either immortal, cursed, or both. You'll float through clouds lit by lightning bolts, tiptoe past screaming titans, and maybe try not to get swallowed whole by your own dad. Casual stuff. Picture this. You're born into a divine family, and your first birthday gift is a prophecy saying you'll overthrow your father. Not a toy, not even socks. Just pure doom. That's the vibe of tonight's mythology. Greek myths aren't exactly built for comfort. There's lots of betrayal, dramatic transformations, and the occasional romantic swan. Don't ask. You probably won't survive this pantheon-level family dysfunction, but that's okay, because you're only here for the bedtime version. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and the time where you are. I love seeing where we're all drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through a fog of time, slipping into the folds of the mythic world before the world. In the beginning, there's just chaos, a kind of cosmic soup where even oxygen hasn't quite figured itself out. But very soon, the gods start hatching like overly dramatic eggs. First comes Gaia, Earth herself, flat and vast and apparently very fertile. She pops out Uranus, the sky, and naturally, they fall in love. Because of course the Earth and the sky are into each other. Together, they produce the Titans, giant beings who have names like Oceanus, Hyperion, and Cronus. Cronus is the one you need to watch. He's got that future dad who eats his children energy. Literally. He hears that one of his kids will overthrow him, so he does what any paranoid deity would. He eats them whole. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, served fresh and screaming. But Gaia, tired of this stively unstable parenting, hides baby Zeus in a cave. This cave? Full of goat milk, echoing lullabies, and the gentle clang of armored dancers stomping around to mask the baby's cries. It's the kind of preschool that costs a fortune if you're a mortal. Eventually, Zeus grows up, buff, lightning-charged, and just petty enough to avenge his swallowed siblings. He tricks Cronus into puking up the other gods, and yes, they're still alive. God's stomach acid is weirdly non-lethal. Then, war breaks out. It's called the Titanomachy, and it's less of a strategy battle and more of a thunderbolt rave. Historians still argue whether this myth reflects an actual cultural shift from older Earth-based deities to sky-oriented ones, or if it's just what happens when you let too many poets write history. Either way, you stand on the battlefield, watching Zeus hurl bolts from Mount Olympus like he's in a mood. The Titans are banished, locked deep in Tartarus, a cosmic dungeon that makes modern prisons look like yoga retreats. Now the Olympians take over. Zeus becomes king, which mostly means he gets to throw tantrums and cheat on everyone, all the time. His siblings get jobs too. Poseidon claims the sea. Hades takes the underworld, begrudgingly. Hera becomes the goddess of marriage, which is ironic, considering her husband is Zeus. You float past the halls of Olympus, where gossip flows faster than nectar. One minute, Aphrodite's making everyone fall in love with statues, and the next, Athena's popping fully armed out of Zeus's forehead. That's not a metaphor. She's literally born from his skull, which somehow doesn't make him pause and reconsider his life choices. Speaking of Athena, she's the goddess of wisdom and war, your classic, don't mess with me, combo. She doesn't marry, doesn't cry, and turns one unfortunate woman, Arachne, into a spider for weaving too well. Because apparently, excellence is punishable. And then there's poor Prometheus. A titan who actually liked humans, mistake number 1, gave them fire, mistake number 2, and got chained to a rock for eternity with a liver that regenerates every day so an eagle can peck it out again, mistake number 3. Zeus is not into second chances. Fun fringe fact? Ancient Greeks may have associated the liver with emotion and courage, not just digestion. So Prometheus losing his liver daily might have symbolized a deeper emotional punishment, like if your soul got scheduled for daily uninstall-reinstall cycles. Meanwhile, mortals down below are just trying to live. They build temples, burn meat offerings, and pray their cows don't get turned into constellations. Spoiler, they do. You drift into the myth of Io, one of Zeus's many crushes. To hide her from Hera, Zeus turns Io into a cow. Hera, who's not fooled in the slightest, sends a gadfly to chase poor cow Io across the known world. It's one of history's first recorded long-distance relationships, and also a great reason to avoid Greek gods on dating apps. Even the underworld gets a glow-up. Hades, the reluctant ruler, mostly minds his own gloomy business, until he falls for Persephone. Instead of flirting, he kidnaps her. Classic move. Her mother, Demeter, goes into full grief mode, causing eternal winter. Eventually, Persephone negotiates a shared custody deal. 6 months in the underworld, 6 months above. And that, kids, is how seasons were allegedly invented. Historians still debate whether Persephone's story is a reflection of agricultural cycles or just another tale to make eternal kidnapping seem poetic. You, however, are more focused on the pomegranate seeds she ate, just enough to trap her halfway. Moral of the story? Always read the snack label. Back on Olympus, Hermes zips around with his winged sandals, delivering messages and maybe stealing your wallet if you blink. Apollo plays the lyre and causes plagues, because why not have a versatile resume? And Artemis, goddess of the hunt, roams forests with deer and zero patience for creeps. There's a lot of transformation magic going around, too. Like Daphne, who turns into a tree to escape Apollo's unwanted crush. Just poof. Bark, branches, silence. Not a bad exit strategy if you're being pursued by a literal god. You press onward through this divine fever dream, past golden apples, cursed mirrors, and temples echoing with unanswered prayers. The air smells of roasted goat, blooming laurel, and maybe just a whiff of divine pettiness. And above it all, Zeus thrones in the clouds, looking smug, probably flexing, always waiting for someone to challenge his top spot. You blink, and suddenly you're surrounded by mortals, wide-eyed, half-clothed, and wildly overconfident. This is the age of heroes, and for some reason, absolutely everyone thinks they're qualified to slay monsters, impress gods, or invent sports. Spoiler alert, most of them are not. First up is Heracles. Yes, the Roman name, Hercules, is just his tourist nickname. You watch as he stumbles into a rage blackout and accidentally kills his wife and kids. Yep, that's the opening scene of his redemption arc. To atone, he agrees to perform 12 impossible labors, which basically means, go fight progressively nastier monsters while wearing a lion skin hoodie. Labor 1? Slay the Nemean lion. Its hide is invincible, so Heracles ends up strangling it with his bare hands, like it's a particularly rowdy weighted blanket. Then there's the Hydra, a snake thing that grows 2 heads for every one you cut off. The solution? Burn the neck stumps with a torch. Honestly, it's less mythical warrior and more problem-solving pyromaniac. As you follow Heracles from one absurd trial to another, cleaning stables by rerouting a river, stealing golden apples guarded by a dragon, you can't help but admire his energy. Maybe not his judgment. Historians still argue whether his story reflects actual rites of passage or was simply the ancient world's version of reality TV. High stakes, low shirts, occasional divine interference. Then there's Perseus, who's basically the first guy to figure out you can beat a monster with accessories. He gets winged sandals, an invisibility helmet, and a mirrored shield to slay Medusa, the snake-haired Gorgon whose gaze turns people to stone. You tag along invisibly, watching Perseus sneak into her lair and reflect her own face back at her like a savage game of peekaboo. One clean sword swipe later, he's hauling her head around like a handbag with attitude. On his way home, Perseus saves Andromeda, a princess chained to a rock as sea monster bait. Honestly, the monster barely gets any screen time. It's more about the optics of rescuing someone while shirtless. Greek myths always come with a little side of thirst trap. Meanwhile, you stumble into the story of Theseus, the guy who volunteers to enter the labyrinth and fight the Minotaur. The Minotaur is a half-man, half-bull, full-time basement dweller who eats people. Theseus uses a ball of string, classic arts and crafts moment, to find his way out after the kill. You'd think surviving the world's worst escape room would earn Theseus eternal glory. Instead, he forgets to change the color of his sails, which signals to his dad that he's dead. Dad hurls himself into the sea. And that, kids, is how the Aegean got its name. Greek etymology, where tragedy meets branding. Fringe tidbit? Some theories suggest the Minotaur myth was a symbolic retelling of ancient bull-leaping rituals from Minoan Crete. Those folks were really into athletic flips over charging animals, which, in fairness, beats most gym routines. Then you trail behind Jason and the Argonauts, the ultimate group project. They sail off in a wooden ship called the Argo to find the Golden Fleece. Why? Honestly, unclear. Mostly because someone told Jason he deserved a throne. Along the way, he picks up Medea, a brilliant sorceress who helps him survive everything from dragon-guarded trees to singing death rocks. Medea is the MVP of the quest. She betrays her own family, manipulates fire-breathing oxen, and later cuts up her own brother to slow down their pursuers. It's romantic in that unhinged, ancient Greek kind of way. You can't help but wonder why Jason later dumps her. Oh wait, he's the worst. You pause on the deck of the Argo, watching the stars shimmer above. The constellations are named after these very heroes, which is ironic considering how many of them had zero impulse control. Still, there's something magical about this age, where humans reach just a little too far, usually get burned, and sometimes get promoted to legend for the trouble. Odysseus shows up next. He's clever, charming, and cursed with the travel luck of someone who tried to use expired airline miles. After the Trojan War, which we'll get to in a second, he spends 10 years trying to get home, dodging cyclops, sirens, cannibals, and sea monsters. He even gets trapped on an island with a goddess who really wants to marry him. It's basically The Bachelor, Mythic Island Edition. You sail beside him, ducking under Poseidon's rage as Odysseus blinds the sea god's son, a cyclops named Polyphemus, then taunts him like a frat boy with a fake ID. Not a great move. Eventually, Odysseus makes it home, disguises himself as a beggar, and slaughters all the suitors who've been trying to marry his wife. You know, classic homecoming vibes. Meanwhile, the Trojan War is the mythological event that tries to explain how a beauty contest, a golden apple, and a bad decision by Paris led to 10 years of bloodshed. You float above the wooden horse being wheeled into the gates of Troy. There's something deeply modern about it, a surprise attack hidden inside a gift. Early marketing, maybe. Achilles is the star here, strong, moody, and famously hard to kill, except for that one heel. His rage drives much of the story, especially after his best friend Patroclus is killed. Whether their relationship was platonic or romantic, historians still debate it, and honestly, you just lean back and watch the emotions simmer. Achilles dies, Troy burns, and the survivors scatter, some founding cities, others just dissolving into song. You drift through the ruins, past the smoldering walls and echoing dirges. It feels strangely intimate, this end of an era moment. You almost expect a sequel. And then there's Orpheus. He's not a hero in the sword-wielding sense. He's the guy who sings so beautifully that even rocks cry. When his wife, Eurydice, dies, he travels to the underworld to get her back. Hades, surprisingly moved, says yes, but only if Orpheus doesn't look back until they both return to the world above. So naturally, halfway out, Orpheus turns around. You hold your breath with him, right in that second of fatal doubt. Eurydice fades back into the shadows. No monster fight, no epic curse, just one quiet mistake. Sometimes myths don't need lightning bolts to strike you. You return to the surface world with the quiet hum of a lyre in your ears. The heroes are gone, their statues crumble, but their stories? Still loud. You sigh. Maybe not every hero gets a happy ending, but they do get remembered. Which, in ancient Greece, is kind of the point. You open your eyes to find yourself in a sun-drenched meadow, calm and green, where nothing is trying to eat you, for once. But don't relax just yet. Here, in this final corner of Greek mythology, the weirdness isn't gone, it's just quieter. More poetic, and oddly leafy. Welcome to the Transformation Zone. This is where mortals keep getting turned into stuff. Trees, birds, rivers, even constellations, usually by accident, trauma, or divine overreaction. It's less about victory and more about escape. Take poor Daphne, again. Remember her? Apollo, the radiant god of music and poetry, catches a case of instant obsession thanks to Cupid's mischievous arrow. Daphne, on the other hand, gets hit with the opposite. She's allergic to romance. So when Apollo starts chasing her through the woods with his best tragic sonnet energy, she runs. Hard, faster than wind. Just before he grabs her, Daphne cries out for help, and boom. Her feet root to the ground. Her arms stretch into branches. Her hair becomes leaves. She becomes the very first laurel tree. Apollo, now deeply remorseful, too little, too tree, declares the laurel sacred and makes it the crown for all future poets and victors. You might have seen it. Those little wreaths on ancient heads. Stylish, leafy regret. And then there's Narcissus. You follow this famously good-looking youth as he breaks hearts all over the countryside, including Echoes. Yes, that Echo, the mountain nymph cursed to only repeat what others say. She loves him. He tells her off. She withers into just her voice, echoing forever. Melodramatic? Sure, but you know someone like that. Eventually, the gods punish Narcissus by making him fall in love with his own reflection. He gazes endlessly into a pool, transfixed. Won't eat, won't sleep, won't blink. Finally, he fades away, leaving behind a single delicate flower. And boom, Narcissus the boy becomes Narcissus the bloom. Lovely, a little depressing, very on brand for Greek mythology. Fringe detail? Ancient Greeks didn't just invent the concept of vanity, they literally planted it. That Narcissus flower shows up in real-life funerary art and perfume recipes. Turns out, nothing says eternal longing like florals. You move on, brushing past the reeds by a quiet river. The wind carries music, a haunting, hollow tune. You trace the sound to Pan, the half-goat god of the wild. He once chased a nymph named Syrinx, who begged the river spirits to hide her. In a last-second escape, she turns into water reeds. When Pan tries to embrace her, he ends up hugging air. So naturally, he cuts the reeds and makes them into an instrument, the panpipes. Yeah, that's the emotional maturity level we're working with. And not to be outdone, let's check in on Callisto, one of Artemis's favorite huntresses. She takes a vow of chastity, pledges loyalty to Artemis, and then, boom, Zeus shows up. In disguise, of course. The result is a baby, followed by exile, followed by Artemis turning her into a bear out of sheer betrayal-fueled rage. Years later, her son nearly kills her during a hunt. The gods, finally feeling guilty, swoop in and place them both in the stars, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Historians still argue whether these tales reflect ancient constellation mapping or just the gods trying to cover their messes with a shiny sky sticker. Either way, the night above becomes a glittering memorial to everyone who couldn't catch a break. At this point, you start to notice a pattern. When mortals meet gods, it rarely ends well. Best case scenario? You become a flower. Worst case? You're the origin story of a natural disaster. Just ask Niobe. Niobe brags that she has more children than Leto, the mother of Apollo and Artemis. Big mistake. The twin gods show up, arrows drawn, and wipe out her whole family. All of them. Niobe flees, collapsing in grief. Eventually, the gods take pity, or maybe just get bored, and turn her into stone. A weeping rock, with a stream flowing eternally from her eyes. Solid metaphor, also deeply unsettling. You drift down into the world of dreams, where even sleep has its own deity. Hypnos, god of slumber, lives in a cave surrounded by poppies and night. He's got a twin brother, Thanatos, god of death. Talk about an intense sibling dynamic. Even here, in these quieter corners of myth, things don't fully relax. Dreams bring warnings, curses, or riddles. Mortals sleep to receive prophecies. You watch one king, Endymion, fall into eternal sleep just so a moon goddess can admire him without all that pesky talking. Eventually, you float toward the river Lethe, the river of forgetting. Souls drink from it to erase all memory before reincarnation. It's peaceful, the kind of peace that wraps around you like mist. The kind where you stop worrying whether that god's eagle is judging your outfit. And while you're there, you hear stories drifting downstream. A boy named Phaethon who tried to drive the sun chariot and scorch the earth. A girl named Arachne who wove a tapestry so perfect it insulted the gods. A musician who could move trees and rocks with his songs. They all end up transformed into ashes, spiders, legends. But maybe that's the lesson. In Greek myths, change is the only guarantee. Mortals want glory, gods want obedience, and everyone's just trying not to get turned into an inanimate object before lunch. You look up at the sky one last time, and it's glittering with more than stars. It's full of memories, regret, beauty, weird animal hybrids, and way too many love triangles. You exhale. The drama is fading now. The world is quieter, and slowly, the myths begin to blur into the edges of sleep. Wind down. And now, the fires of Olympus dim. The storms settle. The gods, for all their fury, retreat to marble silence. Even the heroes, those loud, stumbling seekers, finally grow still in the stories we've traced tonight. You feel the earth under your feet soften, turn to moss. The sky overhead smooths into velvet, stars blinking with the gentleness of things already written, already resolved. No more thunderbolts. No more trials. Just breath and rhythm and hush. Let the wild rush of monsters and riddles fall behind you. Let the long names and tangled bloodlines dissolve into simpler things. A cool breeze, a stretch of sleep, the safe dark beyond the firelight. The myths may be loud, full of flair and feathers and fury, but their endings always bring quiet. Stillness. That soft moment when even gods close their eyes. So let yourself drift now, slowly and fully. You're not on a battlefield. You're not running from a golden god with boundary issues. You're simply here, safe, resting, and gently fading into dreams that are yours alone. In this calm, the stories hold no teeth. Only music, only leaves falling, only soft ground. Close your eyes. Let go. You've wandered through Olympus and back again. And now, you've earned your sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.